So the first thing I want you to think about when it comes to understanding numbers is what does this number mean? Okay, so you see that and it's, a line going this way and a line going this way and a line going this way, and you say, aha, that's a 4. And what do we mean by 4? Like, what is fourness, to get all philosophical about it? And so you would say, well, I could write it like this too. There are objects, and there are what we call 4 of them. And of course, we could say in different languages, we could call that some other thing, but there's this mathematical concept of fourness that we would say that we're trying to capture. So in order to communicate numbers, obviously, we need to come up with these symbols for mathematical concepts, right? And so that's one of them. And you could write this symbol in many different ways. You could write it like that. And if I knew other languages, we could write it like, other ways, hash marks. And so over the years, people have written 4 in different ways. If we wanted to, we could all agree that from now on, this symbol is the symbol for this, right? We could say this is equal to each other. And if we agreed on that, every time we see this, we would think to ourselves that there's 4 of something. So that's, first of all, we could change the symbol for 4 and we could still all agree that we're talking about 4 of something. I just chose 4 arbitrarily. That doesn't really make a difference in what it is we're talking about. I just wanted to, so that you start thinking mathematically and more universally than just writing some symbols down on the board and assuming that those mean the things we think they mean. So now I'm going to take another symbol. Let's start with 4 again. Let's go 439. Let's say we have these 3 symbols that we're using on the board. And we want to talk about what does each of these mean now. And sometime in like 3rd grade or something like this, we may have called this the ones place, and we may have called this the tens place, and this the hundreds place. Right? And so we could say, how many ones are there? There's 9 ones. There's 3 tens, and there's 4 hundreds. So we could write it like this. We could have written it like 439, and if we add all those up together, we get 439, right? Another way that we could write that is if we were talking about ones, well, I'm going to start with this, actually. If we're talking about the hundreds place, we could say that that is 10 squared is 100, right? And so we could say it's 4 times 10 squared would be another way to express 400. And then the 3, well, we could say that that is times 10 to the first power, and so it's 30. 3 times 10 to the first power. And then this is the weird one that people, it's one of these strange mathematical concepts that something to the 0th power is a 1. And so if I was to say 9 times this, that's the same thing as saying 9 times 1, which is the same way of saying 9. So you have to trust me on that one, that something to the 0th power, anything to the 0th power is 1. That's just how it works out. And so if you wanted to keep on going and you wanted to say, now I have the thousands place. What is thousands? Right? Couldn't we write this as 5 times 10 to the 3rd power? 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. And we could keep on going, and so then you might start to see a pattern in that the ones place is 10 to the 0th, then it's 10 to the 1st, then it's 10 to the 2nd, then it's 10 to the 3rd. So when we talk about putting numbers in these places, the ones place, tens place, hundreds place, we're talking about this number going up. Another way to talk about the number system that we just described is we could say it is a base 10 number system, which means this number is always a 10. This number changes based on the value, and then this number changes based on the place, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on that way, right? And so the base that we're basing it on is 10. And of course we know this because there's 10 different digits that we can use when we talk about base 10, right? So base 10, there is 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is why this math is very simple And I'm not telling you anything that you didn't know, except maybe this part, is that we know this because we know that any numbers can go, like we can represent any number that we can think of with these symbols. And so therefore, this is the math behind those symbols. And so that's the base 10 number system. So maybe I'll stop there, and then the question I'll leave you with is, does every number, when we talk about 4 being a symbol that means 4, do we have to do our numbers with a base 10? Could we change this number to something else and call it base something else? And that's what we'll deal with next time.